What's up, everybody? It's your boy Keefy, seat of the pants Keefy. Oh, that's my messy room. Uh, keep the mess off to the side of the screen. We're here for a funeral. We're here for the funeral of Saint Vitus Bar. I thought I would jump on and do a live stream and share my thoughts and feelings about the closure of maybe the second most important venue in New York City history. It's one of the most important venues worldwide in history, in music. Scumlove is here on TikTok. Good to see you. Somebody's watching on YouTube. Good to see you. So we're going to do a little recap and share down of all my thoughts and feelings. I've got notes here. I've got TikTokers over here, camera there, me here, you there, talking METAL. And we're going to talk about the closure of Saint Vitus Bar and why it's such a blow, not just to New Yorkers, but to metalheads really everywhere. This is a terrible shame. It might have been able to be avoided. We are reaching out to the owners of Saint Vitus to see if they will grant us an interview. Understandably, when you lose your business or, something like a community like this, it's like a death in the family. So I could see if they don't want to talk. If they didn't want to talk, I would really understand, because shit, this is a lot. This is a whole ass mood to try to process. A lot of people are devastated by this. A lot of people are angry. Clearly, yeah, Saint Vitus is gone, Scumlove. Saint Vitus is gone. I don't know if you've been following the story. Looks like my other device is dead, so I won't be able to interact as much on Insta. Let's see if it'll let me log in as myself here. Again, one more screen to manage. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this. Hey, Arabella Sparkles is here. Hello. So just jumping on to talk about, our thoughts and feelings about St. Vitus Bar closing. This is a place, especially in my second go round as a former lifetime New Yorker, and then I had to move to Boston for 10 years. But Boston has seen closures to their places. We just found out we're getting Great Scott back. I'm going to talk about that this week on the regular live stream. But I thought I would jump on. I prepared like a little deck and a little run through of things that I wanted to talk about. If you have any, my day's going well, Arabella. Thank you. If you've got, it's been a rough day, but it's going better now. And after this live stream, I'm going to go do karaoke and scream my brains out like I do every week. Probably do some Deftones and System of a Down since I just saw them. But I get that people all over the world and the country don't have the same kind of thing, like New York, San Francisco, Austin, Texas, Los Angeles, Boston, Washington, D.C. We have a plethora of places to see and watch live music, and not everybody has that. So we are very lucky if you're from these major cities. And other places, they don't have a scene. They don't have a scene. Just really quick, if you're new here, thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe if you're especially into rock and metal. This channel and these channels and these socials and our website, ghostcultmag.com, is for you. So I'm wearing my fun Mastodon shirt because, like I said, been a kind of a rough day. But feel free to drop comments and ask questions. If you've been to St. Vitus and you have a memory you want to share, drop it in the comments, like a favorite memory. Some of this is subjective, and some of it based on my personal experience, based on Ghost Cult's experience as a journalistic website covering a lot of events and shows there. Countless, like hundreds of shows in 11 years there. We did dozens of interviews in person there, both for our YouTube and our podcasts. And somebody just gave us like the little caring heart. Thank you, America Hall. I see you on Facebook. Thank you. So just wanted to kind of talk about this stuff, and I'm going to add this presentation. Here we go. This is an amazing picture of Oceans of Slumber. Sorry, Cammie Dobler, the vocalist, at a recent show there last year. I'm going to talk about them. So what we're going to do here is not only pay a eulogy to St. Vitus and talk about what it meant to me and why it's so important, why it was so important. We're going to rank the top 5 most important culturally significant rock and metal shows there ever. Some will not surprise you. Number 1 might not surprise you. Maybe it will. Some of the others might surprise you, and we're going to talk about why they were significant and important. And then we're going to rank, like sort of soft rank the top 15 ghost cult shows ever there that we covered and why. We're going to talk about the top events separately from shows and interviews and things we've done there, just events and things that happen, gatherings, special events, and maybe a little, and we're going to drop a little love on some of the interviews I did there in person or we've done there in person. There's quite a bunch, like I said, dozens of them, and really helped like make this, our YouTube channel especially, really what it is. We really, we started to ramp up our video content and ability in 2017 after being around for 4 or 5 years. And then we really, when I moved back to New York, and I really moved back in 2015, 2016. And then I really moved back to Brooklyn, back to New York City in 2017. And I literally was at Saint Vitus like 4 or 5 times a week sometimes. There are shows in other places. I went to a lot of other things, but I specifically, Saint Vitus was our home. We were welcome there. We conducted a lot of interviews there. Anybody that's been in the press with me, Frank Godlove, Metal Injection, my homie Alex Haber of Heavy New York, we all used to do interviews. Literally, sometimes we'd all be monopolizing parts of the basement. Many of our interviews were in front of the beer locker, and you'd have like the bartender have to come in and get a keg or a case right in the middle of our interview. Then we moved our interviews to kind of like the trash area where the grate was. There were rats outside, not in the club, but you had rats like sometimes scurrying by, and you hear a little rat feet on the metal grate above us, because that's in New York, Rat Central. But yeah, this is a really tough one. This is a tough one for me personally, and I don't live in New York anymore. But I'll talk about my last experience ever. That's it. 2 really crucial last 2 experiences at Saint Vitus Bar. And in between, I had moved to California. So like a lot of changes, and I had really hoped to get back again. And I didn't think this would ever happen. So, just tough stuff. First and foremost, there's the iconic Saint Vitus logo. Originally, we started to see some people connected to Saint Vitus make some social media posts that, hey, like, we're never going to be able to get back in here. I miss it so much. I don't know what we're going to do without it. And then the bar themselves posted sort of farewell pictures of the stripped club. And you can go to at Saint Vitus Bar. That's a picture of me at Saint Vitus Bar. There's like an infamous press photo of me. This used to be it still is a photo I use from maybe 2018, 2019. That's the spot I was just describing where we used to do the interviews. And then one day we had like a little break, a lull between bands, and Omar and I, my partner here at Ghost Cult, we took some photos of each other. And but yeah, that's that photo. I've used that photo a lot. People see that photo. That's Saint Vitus Bar. And that's the New York City Department of Buildings came in on February 20th during a show, and Mind Forest was headlining sort of a hardcore show there. And again, if you're a rock and metal fan, this place was so integral to the experience of being a music fan. And because of video and because of social media, especially my man Frank Huang of Max Volume Silence. Probably said that wrong. I'll link his correct channel in the description. I'm sorry, I'm quite tired today. But his videos went all over the world. When Kerrang was big in New York for a minute, they occasionally did some events in other places inspired by Saint Vitus. They couldn't really move in and horn in on Saint Vitus's spot, but this is what they did, I'm gonna have a liquid death here. Convicted melon. But the New York Department of Buildings shut them down over some missing certificates. There's also a whole sub-story about sort of a right-wing guy, a Nazi guy who got kicked out. He had a show canceled there, and he was mad that St. Vitus was too woke. And, there was all kinds of, St. Vitus was a safe space for everybody. It was welcoming to everybody. And it's really a shame that this thing was taken away from us. Maybe that guy played a part by complaining to the city. Maybe there's some other problems. I don't think there's a vast conspiracy here. I just think we lost our venue, and that's the most important thing. Not how we lost it, but that we lost it. And we've seen this before. CBGB's was allowed to not be a landmark and go out of business. The most important punk club and metal club, most important music venue in the world ever. Roseland is now apartment buildings. Just tragic. We've Limelight, which is now sort of converted and it's not a venue anymore. Other places were shut down for other things. So many places gone. Last time I was in New York last summer, at the same time I went to Saint Vitus for the last time. I ran around with my homie Ken Pierce of Piercing Metal, and we were looking at all the long gone places, especially in the Lower East Side. But Vitus was in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. It was really important. It was a neighborhood literally nobody went to 25, 30 years ago. And then the last 20 years, Williamsburg, Brooklyn, the north part of Brooklyn, has become gentrified and kind of done over and moved into and liked. And, a place like St. Vitus really unified the whole place. There were other places too. Brooklyn Bazaar is gone. Knitting Factory. So we've lost quite a bunch of places. This is a real devastating blow. But anyway, we're going to focus on the good times. That's what I'm all about, the good times. So this is the message on social media, the post of the three owners, George, Artie, and David, and sort of the emptied out Saint Vitus bar with a little tombstone, which is very fitting. The place had no windows even after the remodel. It was just dark, 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 dark black. The lighting was improved. The sound was improved the last time I went. People vary on show to show on how good the sound was at St. Vitus. I was never mad at it. I always felt like, oh, this is, tenable completely. A lot of great shows there. So many great shows. Even if, there was, you didn't like what it was about, there were so many really great things that happened here. So many just memorable moments that can never be, replicated. So we're going to talk about some of those. Again, if you went to St. Vitus Bar, this is kind of an older picture of me with less of a beard. This was the infamous mannequin that moved around to different places. In the older version of St. Vitus before the pandemic, there was definitely sort of a little more gothic vibe in the place with red lights and candelabras and stuff and little altars. And then when they came back, they kind of stripped that away and made it a little more user-friendly for the bands to load in their gear and out, and repainted the place a little better and maybe upgraded the sound and lighting a bit, which was important. Some of the New York places, even today, are wonderful, but they lack some of the things, like, oh, it's hard enough to keep a venue open. And, sometimes it's like, oh, well, at least we have sort of this whole thing. We have the venue and that's enough. And I should add that in their farewell message, the St. Vitus owners have said that, St. Vitus is going to carry on. Maybe they can get a new location and reopen somewhere else or as something else under a different name. St. Vitus continues, St. Vitus Presents or St. Vitus Promotions continues to book shows all over New York City, around 13, 15 venues concurrently, venues that people like going to and enjoy. And so the shows from St. Vitus, some were canceled. Most have been just moved to other places now. The Knockdown Center, TVI in Ridgewood, other places. So if you're still in New York, if you're still in Brooklyn, if you're still in the tri-state area and you can get around, you can get to these things. You can absolutely get to them. Now I finally got my other device to work, so I have logged in to see who is around on Instagram. Hey, Stephanie. And anybody else that's there. Queen Purple Unicorn is here. Arabella is back here. Electric Desert Records, what up, what up? We're just pouring one out. I can't pour one out on my computer, but I'm going to pour one out for St. Vitus Bar with a sparkling water, not a beer. Anyway, moving along. So just so many memorable, for me personally, like returning as a sort of wayward son of New York, having lived in Boston and New England for 10, 11 years, and then coming back. I had so many incredible times there. I saw some of my heroes. I met so many people. Brian Slagle of Metal Blade. Metal Blade used to have a lot of events there. I used to know the door staff intimately. Al Dawson from Earache Records. Luis Alvarenga from By Norse. All the New York homies, so many of my friends, so many of my peers. People would come from out of town and I would take them to one of two places, Lucky 13 or three places, Lucky 13, Duff's, and St. Vitus. And basically that was the pilgrimage. We would go to all of them. I know a lot of people who are watching this probably never got to go. Maybe you didn't ever get to go. Hopefully there will be a new place you will get to go. I'm hopeful that these guys, they definitely know what they're doing and how to run a club and create a community. This is a picture of me with no hair almost, which is pretty amazing, hanging out with one of my absolute idols. That's Walt Trifles. You might know him best from Quicksand and Gorilla Biscuits, also Rival Schools, also his solo stuff, Dine Alone Records. Walter is pretty phenomenal. He was great. I hadn't seen him in like 30 years, almost 25, 30 years. And he remembered me from when I was a kid at shows, and he used to come into my place of work. Just happened coincidentally. I will share some thoughts on Saint Anger on the live stream later in the week. I have many thoughts about Saint Anger. And I think there's even maybe even a podcast episode I did on Saint Anger. I don't remember. But I just want to focus on this particular thing right now. And just, again, this is a funeral. I could have wore my black suit, but this is a funeral for a place that I love, a place that built a community in New York City. So this is me and Walt Trifles. Here's me. We used to just do so much stuff here. We used to make content. This is, again, in another spot in the basement of Saint Vitus. We used to just shoot videos there. We would have some downtime and just create content. And we got like 10 minutes to kill. Let's shoot a bunch of videos and talk about stuff. So in the before TikTok era, before there were reels and shorts, we made these kind of things for Instagram when they started doing videos. I got you, though, Arabella. I'm not going to forget you. You're great. I appreciate you being here. And I got your question. I make notes. I rewatch these things. I make notes. Maybe I may feel fried sometimes, but I have a pretty good recall. I will be honest. This is just a funny meme about Saint Vitus. If the show is sold out I know there's a lot of conjecture about, if they oversold shows or whatever. St. Vitus really held about 150 people completely. And some people, they just hung at the bar the whole show. They would pay to get in, come to see the show, and drink at the bar and hang with their friends and then listen to the show a couple 100 feet away. But also, if it got too packed, you could not get into the little room, the main room. But at the same time, like, a show is going to be a huge thing, or one of these special secret shows I'm going to talk about. Absolutely, 100%. You needed to come early. You couldn't come after work at like 9 and get it right up to the front. Sometimes you could. In addition to shows, I just want to mention they used to have metal karaoke, which I won one time, singing one of my favorites, Midlife Crisis by Faith No More. They used to do black metal yoga. They used to have sort of goth and occult, obscura flea markets. They used to have gatherings. They used to have, all kinds of. They used to connect people. Again, this place was for everyone. It was a safe and cool place for everybody. And no one was unwelcome, which is why that one shitty person, I don't want to give that person all the power that they helped shut the place down. They might have had a part to play in it, but not as much as I think that person would like to take credit for it, which is hella shitty. So here are the top 5 most important shows ever at St. Vitus. I think this is really important. These are culturally significant. You can disagree. This is my opinion as a music journalist and a person that's been in music my whole life. And I think it's well agreed on that these would fall at least into the top 10. These are my top 5. I'm not saying these are the top 5 best single shows. If you saw some better shows than these, drop a comment, tell me the shows. Everybody is right in this case. But I think in terms of culturally significant, this cements the legacy of the venue. This is why these are important. So I might have did a decent job with this. Let's see. So first, some honorable mentions, and I think this is really important for some honorable mentions. This is Rivers of Nile's Where Owls Know My Name album cover. Rivers of Nile played that entire album, which was like the hype record of 4 or 5 years ago. And I was in attendance for this show in the front row, just as a fan. I bought tickets. Friends of mine came down from Boston. Shout out to Colin Frecknall of Today Is the Day. He's their drummer now. At the time, he wasn't in their band, I think. But yeah, this was an unbelievable show. This is a band at sort of the peak of progressive death metal. They had a saxophonist come on and do the sexy sax parts. And it was violent. It was wonderful. People were singing along. It was with their former singer, Jake. They have kind of a different band lineup now with their recent album. And the work. But this was an incredible night. I just wanted to shout this out. But here are some other memorable, honorable mention, culturally significant to rock and metal shows. Mayhem played their entire De Mysterious Vermis show at Saint Vitus. So this is a band that plays metal festivals all over the world, usually like 500 to 1,000 people clubs, and they played this tiny place. Dillinger Escape Plan brought their, before there was even a hint that they were going to retire, played their their incredible brand of mathcore and just violent to themselves, jumping all over the tiny stage. They played there in 2014. They played there again in 2015. And then, of course, they retired a few years later. Stephanie, Brooklyn Miss. Hey, Brooklyn Miss. Good to see you. Asked, how do I just gather all this information? Well, the reality is I was there literally like 200 times from 2015 to 2020 before they closed. And even literally the next to last week of shows, I was there for some shows before the shutdown. So a lot of this is from Stuff Goes Cold Covered. A lot of this is just, stuff I have. But I did do a lot of research. I do quite a bunch of research. If you've watched our recent Woodstock retrospectives of Woodstock 94 and Woodstock 99, I literally did 15 hours of research, just research for each one of these. And I wrote like journals, and I recollected my feelings and thoughts from those times, plus actual set lists, and made sure I had the running orders correct, I think, pretty well, and looked up the ticket price, costs, and merch and all that. So we put a lot of thought into this content. If you like it, please like and subscribe. Brooklyn Miss and Stephanie and Arabella already following. If you're new here, like Peninsula Patry, please follow. So and like I said, if you've been to St. Vitus, drop a comment and share a memory. Other memorable honorable mention shows: Yob played a phenomenal show there right before Mike Scheidt, the lead guy in the band, had a really terrible illness. Coheed and Cambria played a famous show there when they were already huge with major label management and a major label deal, and they played there a special show. Blink-182 has played Saint Vitus Bar, I think, when they first reunited. So these are just some of the significant shows. Then we're going to talk about the top 5. So that was the honorable mentions. Top 5, number 5, Against Me played a secret show there. This is pretty incredible. May the 4th be with you, 2014, after playing a headline show at a much bigger venue elsewhere in New York City, they popped up and did a secret show. It immediately, word of mouth, there was a poster, it went crazy, people just descended on this place, and I think this is probably one of the first really significant, this really helped put them on the map in terms of like, oh, this is a place where these things happen. And I'm sure there were other ones, and there may be some. Again, this is a top 5 I have decided is culturally significant. Joaquin Carcass is here. What up, bro? Anytime, Brooklyn Miss, it's all love. It's all love. Yeah, they live on in memory. I could tell. I mean, I probably should do. I did a series during the pandemic Lovato called War Stories with Keefy. I might resurrect it someday. In a sense, this would be one of those episodes where I talked about the first time I ever went to CBGB's when I was 15, and I saw Mucky Pup and Burn at a matinee. So like, I have a lot of recall, despite not taking care of this or the rest of this. I have a lot of good recall. So I could do some more stuff on CBGB's. I actually recently found a photo of CBGBs that I had, like an actual the old disposable cameras that I developed and got put into film. So anyway, number 5, Against Me, really helped put this place on the map in terms of major bands. Blink-182 also. Number 4, Megadeth. This is not a photo from that show, but this is a photo we shot somewhere else of Dave Mustaine of Megadeth. Megadeth played on December 12th, 2016 as Vic and the Rattleheads. Megadeth has had many lineups. They haven't played a place this tiny in a long time. They play, again, a major headline band of metal festivals all over the world. They play many thousand. They just played the amphitheater here where I saw Stone Temple Pilots that holds like 10 to 15,000 people. So it was like Megadeth, Mudvayne, and All That Remains. So for them to play like 150 person or less club is wild. And I think the impression was that maybe they were going to play Unplugged, because they've done that also. They did that in Boston, where there's a famous bootleg. Yeah, I don't know, Joaquin, if you ever got up to New York to do Saint Vitus with your music, but let us know. Or as a fan. Real Human is here. The Food Atlas is here. So Megadeth played as Vic and the Rattleheads, and I had like I had the set list up, but I think I shut the window. And of course, some kids are playing outside as I need to record this, but like whatever, kids are kids. I'd rather them be playing outside than get off my lawn. And sometimes they run around the building as I click clack, which is like literally one of the things I hate the most. But anyway, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to get it quickly, but I do have one set list that I do have handy. But so this is super interesting. But anyway, so number 4, Megadeth. Again, you might disagree. I think it's pretty significant when one of the most important metal bands ever plays a thing, even if you don't like Dave. A lot of people don't like Dave. So what are you going to do? At number 3, and maybe a controversial pick, Machine Head. Again, not a photo from that show. This is a photo by Amber Buchanan from earlier this year when Machine Head returned with their North American headline tour. And Machine Head has done secret shows for their whole history. They're really great at honoring their legacy. Loser 9509 is also here now. 77 guitarist is here. I know you from seeing you on some of these streams. So Machine Head is the number 3 most significant show at Saint Vitus Bar, and they played like a straight up old school set with some new bangers. I wasn't there, but we had a bunch of friends in the room. Machine Head, again, for the longest time, until maybe as recently as the end of the pandemic, they were only doing an evening with format. So no opener and just Machine Head playing for like 3 hours. So for them to play again like 10, 12, 15 songs in a little club is highly unusual. Not impossible, but unusual. They did do the Electric Happy Hour from their rehearsal studio. That's a little different vibe. And you can see there's videos of all this stuff online, and you can see it, and it's pretty mind-blowing. And again, Machine Head in a little club, pretty incredible. And I believe this was sort of the post Burn My Eyes reunion tour, kind of lineup. So pretty great. Number 2 could be a little controversial, but also it's my show and I'm a little biased, or a lot biased. Number 2, in the number 2 spot for the most culturally significant, most important shows ever at St. Vitus, Anthrax. Anthrax played a benefit show, and that's why I think it's important. Not only to Anthrax from New York, mostly the Bronx and Queens and upstate New York, not Brooklyn, but in New York City's story is interwoven with the story of Anthrax. The reason Anthrax is in the big 4 of thrash metal with Metallica, Slayer, and Megadeth is because not just because they represent New York, because they had a lot of firsts. The first million-selling single, the second million-selling single before any of these other bands. Obviously, the collaboration with Public Enemy, Bring the Noise, that literally revolutionized metal. And then on top of that, this is a charity show for Gilda's house, which is named for Gilda Radner, formerly of Saturday Night Live in the 70s. She died of a terrible, unique ovarian cancer. Fun fact, my mom had the same cancer, so I'm intimately familiar with this charity. That's why this is intimately. Anthrax, one of my favorite bands. The charity is important to me and rings home to me. But this was a pretty special and amazing show. Also, Anthrax does not play pop-up shows, club shows, surprise shows, secret shows. They just don't do it. They only do proper tours. And this is really special, I think, to have them in New York City do something strong for the hometown and for charity. Literally donated. They made a special shirt for the event. All the tickets went to charity. And, I think there was even some efforts to keep scalping to a minimum. I do want to shout out the Dice ticket app for being for a small club that's not a Live Nation place. It's not an AEG place like or AXS or whatever it is, to keep it like, tickets are transferable. There's less scalping and gouging. I understand that people do buy tickets to resell them, but it was really special that you could, you know, was like safe to get tickets. You could get them you could go to a show and buy tickets for a future show at that show. You could get them online. You could trade them to your friends, and it was no, you know, no motherfuckery. So I think that was great. Anthrax at Saint Vitus for number 2. And I think number 1 will not be controversial, probably will not be a surprise to many. But the number 1 show ever at St. Vitus, I think, will be, you know, the one that's in the history books is Nirvana. Not Nirvana with Kurt Cobain, because Kurt Cobain passed away a long time ago, and St. Vitus didn't open until 2013. But on the night that Nirvana was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in New York City, on April the 10th, 2016, the surviving members of Nirvana played a secret show with other singers. Now, most notably, Joan Jett is, sorry, I went in the wrong direction. Joan Jett is referred to as the singer of this lineup, but actually there were multiple singers, and I'm going to run through the set list a little. So Nirvana gets in the Rock Hall. Kurt Cobain is gone. We talked about in the Woodstock thing, the Woodstock series, like how the impact of Nirvana really even carried over to things they weren't even a part of. I think it's culturally significant for Nirvana to be in, even if you don't like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the fact that they're in a punk influence band that came from nothing and became, you know, a global sensation, played this little club, and, you know, who better to step in for Nirvana than a collection of their friends, especially Joan Jett herself, a rock and roll and punk rock legend who Kurt admired. So let's talk about this Nirvana set list really quick. I was also not at this show, sadly, not at this show. But I think technically this show happened. I was not quite living back in the city yet. I was working in the city, and I didn't know about it, and I went home for the night from work, unfortunately. But boo-hoo for me, I lost out. But people are still talking about this thing. So the show opens with Joan Jett on lead vocals, Smells Like Teen Spirit, Breed, In Bloom, Territorial Pissings, one of my favorites, and All Apologies, with Chris Novoselic on accordion and Kim Gordon of Sonic Youth on bass and St. Vincent on guitar. Then Jay Macias from Dinosaur Jr., the guitar wizard, plays Drain You, Penny Royalty, and School. Pretty damn incredible. Then St. Vincent, who's, again, a huge global pop star as well as a rocker, came on. St. Vincent, she also covers, like, Metallica songs and stuff. She covers Lithium, About a Girl and Heart-Shaped Box, which is the photo I started with here for Nirvana. Then John McCauley comes on and does a bunch of songs, Serve the Servants, Milk It, Very Ape, Tentless Apprentice, and Tourette, some more deep cuts and obscure songs like Milk It and Very Ape. Then finally, Kim Gordon of Sonic Youth, former touring mate. They took Nirvana out on their first national tour, and then Nirvana took Sonic Youth out on tour, and they closed with Aneurysm, my personal favorite Nirvana song, Negative Creep, and Moist Vagina, which was never played before ever by the band. And, you know, you can probably guess why. It's an interesting choice. Let's just put it that way. 19 songs. Pat Smear, Dave Grohl, Chris Novoselic with different lead vocalists. Now, supposedly, in the history books, this was recorded professionally, and we have never seen if it's ever going to come out as an album. I know there would be some licensing and problems like that. And also, wouldn't it make a great DVD or something, or a Blu-ray or a streaming event, right? Like, how much money would you pay to see this thing? I pay a lot of money to watch this. I think it'd be really fascinating. So that is the top most important shows ever. Now we're going to whip through another set of shows, and this is going to be just the most important shows we covered at Saint Vitus Bar. And again, this is out of dozens and dozens. So there's quite a lot, and I'm going to just try to whip through this. I think there's like a list that I'm going to speak, and then there's like some visual aids as we get closer. Just some honorable mentions, some more recent, some in the past. Last year, Misery Index, Origin co-headlining with Wolf King and Wake. Light the Torch, we covered Light the Torch's first show was like July 5th when they renamed themselves after a lineup change and a name change. This is the band that has Howard Jones, formerly of Killswitch Engage. It was their first show there ever. We interviewed them there, and it was sold out, and it was a pretty intense and incredible show, and they didn't do any covers or anything. They just played their songs, and it was, you know, impressive and great to see Howard in really great shape, and Francesco Artisato of Also Perishes in that band also. So just, you know, a lot of great stuff. Also at that venue. Unearth, Revocation, Entheos, and High Command. That's actually more recently. I think that's in the honorable mentions here, right? So let's see. I think there's a picture here of our man Trevor. We covered an Unearth all over the world. What an incredible show. We covered Revocation many times at Saint Vitus Bar, especially Dave Davidson, who's always popping up. I also want to take a second to just talk about, like, it was also a hangout for metal musicians, and one of our favorite people we always saw at St. Vitus was, of course, Trevor Strnad, formerly, obviously, of the Black Dahlia Murder, who passed away a few years ago. And he was, when he lived in Brooklyn, he was always at St. Vitus Bar, and he was always hanging out with fans and talking about death metal and talking about music and even not music stuff, nerd shit, D&D, all kinds of stuff. Some other great shows we covered here at St. Vitus Bar, among the top ones. Mutoid Man, and not only was Mutoid Man many times, they were practically the house band because they also were part of 2 Minutes to Late Night with Gorsinio Hall. If you check your YouTube, you can see Stephen Brodsky and other members and friends of his collabing. King Woman put on one of the best shows I've ever seen there. I've seen her a few more times elsewhere. Witch Mountain put on an incredible show. I think they're kind of on a hiatus right now, but they were played there with their first tour with Kayla Dixon. I interviewed the band there. It's in our interview section. Blaze Bailey, the former Iron Maiden singer, did a headline show there, covered by my partner Omar. Eyehategod and Cromags played an incredible set there. And many others. So let's just quickly whip through this list of, and it's not like, again, you know, this is more my opinion of things we covered and their impact and traffic and people who paid attention to us for this. You know, I'm appreciative. Hey, Brooklyn Miss also popped up on the Graham booted you. Oh no, I'm so sorry. It's pretty inconsistent. All the social networks are going to shit right now, by the way. I don't know if you're aware of this. All right. So top 15 shows ever that Ghost Cult covered at St. Vitus Bar, in my personal opinion, as the co-owner of Ghost Cult. Rotting Christ, Borknagar, Abigail Williams. Lots of black metal thrived at St. Vitus Bar. There were some other places, smaller places like the Acheron that went out of business. It was kind of a fire trap. I think the St. Vitus guys might have been involved in that briefly too. But Rotting Christ last year with Borknagar and Abigail Williams, I believe this is a photo by Rebecca Page from New York City, who covers stuff for us there. Just incredible, like, what a show to see Rotting Christ and Borknagar, who again in Europe played to tens of thousands of people, and Abigail Williams, one of the best U.S. black metal bands. Pretty tight. The next one's a little sad. Speaking of drummers, this is the late Reed Mullen of COC. We saw COC several times at St. Vitus Bar, including that picture from the top with me and Walt Schreifels. He was hanging out that night at that show. This is the last time I would ever see Reed Mullen with the band. He didn't tour much after this with them because he had some illnesses and stuff that eventually, led to his passing. But COC, such a top premier metal band, played a great show. This particular show had Mothership opening. They're sick. Two big festivals that were had events at St. Vitus Bar. Desertfest, when Desertfest finally came back to New York, their first pre-party was at St. Vitus Bar. The rest of the festival was at another venue, the Well, now closed. Magnetic Eye Day of Doom, celebrating that label's history, where we literally were there all day, photographed all the bands, interviewed all the bands, almost all the bands. It was pretty phenomenal, and the label owners, and it was really it was also like a really great event for just meeting people in the music industry and seeing these bands from all over the world. Revocation, as I mentioned, we covered many times. They're not Revocation's 11, so Desertfest 13, Magnetic Eye Day of Doom 12, Revocation 11. Again, many shows and interviews and special events with Revocation and Dave Davidson. Crowbar. This picture is shot by John Aravello Paco. He covered a lot of stuff, and he's pretty great. I got some kind of award on TikTok that's making a sound. Thank you all. Kevy Rebel 72 is here. So yeah, Crowbar, who I've managed to see all over the world and photograph all over the world. We covered many great Crowbar. They're almost like the perfect band for the size of the venue. Like, I want to see them. I've seen them play 3,000 people to 10,000 people, but also like great to see Crowbar play in like an intimate space and just bring it. Here's another one, and again, you saw this picture at the top. The 9th most important show Ghost Cult ever covered here, or the favorite shows we've covered here. This is Oceans of Slumber, also in the last year, and their new album's about to come out. And this is the I think this is the moment where Oceans of Slumber really became the band they are right now. This incredible gothy progressive metal band, and they really could do anything between the talent in this group, and we're really lucky to have them. And this was a phenomenal show to cover. Also, here's Phil Anselmo with his band Scour, which is kind of on hiatus with Pantera being back and Down working on new music. But Scour is Philip's death metal grindcore band, and we covered the first show they ever played at Saint Vitus, and really one of their first small shows. Philip again is a big draw. He has his legion of fans from his time in Pantera, and they also chose to play Saint Vitus when they could have played somewhere else. Pretty great. This next one has an asterisk. The 7th show is Conan. And Conan, we covered Conan again all over the world. This is a photo from not St. Vitus, but one I could find quickly. We interviewed the band there. We've been longtime mutual admirers, John Davis of Conan and myself. And he's got some other projects in his record label and things we help support. And this is a pretty phenomenal the few times that, like, every time John, a lot of bands have been paying tribute to the bar and to the founders and the bookers, and John made it a point to say that every time they came to New York, they insisted to play St. Vitus. So shout out to John Davis and Conan. And I believe they have a new album coming out soon too. So here's the one with the asterisk. This is pretty special and important to me. This is Royal Thunder. Royal Thunder recently opened for Alice in Chains. They were almost broken up basically for a while, and they came back with their new album, Rebuilding the Mountain. But I've been lucky enough to see Royal Thunder a bunch of times. We covered 3, 4, 5 shows with them there. A handful of people have ever seen me cry actual tears. Mark McFeeters, Metal Mark, former senior editor of Ghost Cult, and Paco Arevalo, and Dante Torrieri, who shot this picture last year, have seen me cry at a Royal Thunder show. And so Royal Thunder at number 6, but Royal Thunder every time, because they get me every time. Here's an interesting one, number 5 of the most important or favorite shows we've covered. This is Bloodclot. This isn't a picture from that show, because we actually came to photograph the show and we came late from work and we couldn't barely get into the like back of the stage area. So Bloodclot, which is kind of a super group of guys headed up by John Joseph, formerly of Cromags, and Joey Castillo of Queens of the Stone Age and the Cult and other bands, as well as Todd Youth, the former great bassist and guitarist extraordinaire from New York City, and a bunch of hardcore and punk legendary bands. They were really good, and they had 1 record out on Metal Blade, I think, or maybe 2. And Todd, we interviewed him outside the venue after the show. He was really gracious, and then he passed away sometime later. You can see that. I'll link that in the description on YouTube and in the video. But also Negative Approach, man, one of the long-running great hardcore punk bands out of the Midwest. And they were absolutely bonkers, like as good as Bloodclot was, and they were. Negative Approach was so crazy for a guy, John Brandon is like almost, I think he's 60, right? And he might have been like in his late 50s or early 60s at this show. And people are literally crowd surfing in St. Vitus. I never saw anything like it. They were, except for Dillinger Escape Plan, this was definitely the craziest show. The single craziest, violent, insane, hardcore show ever. And I'm sure there were many more beat down hardcore shows and deathcore bands that played there. But it was really phenomenal. And it really stayed with me. And I'm sure my partner Elmore would confirm that he agrees about that Negative Approach show, because we're still shook from it. We still talk about it. All right, now, top 4. This one is in the last year. Blackbraid. Blackbraid is one of the most hyped and sensational, legit black metal bands in America right now. They just put out a new cover song. They're on tour all over the world at festivals. And I interviewed, this is John, a.k.a. Sagasa Way, of Blackbraid, and it's sort of Native American infused American black metal. And John draws heavily on his culture, but that's not the whole story. It is great black metal. And we covered this show. Jamie Sherwood covered this for us. And when I interviewed John, which you can also see here on the channel on YouTube, he talked about he felt legitimized by playing Saint Vitus. Like he felt that's the moment he made it, not anything else. That was the first time he felt like I have really achieved something, which is beside the music, which is really, kind of encapsulates all the feelings everybody has about that place. I stepped on that stage and I felt like $1,000,000. I was like, oh, I'm on this same stage that my heroes have played on. So I know how he feels. Again, Mayhem has played on this. Rotting Christ has played on this stage. So number 4, Blackbraid. Number 3 is significant for a multitude of reasons. This is Max Cavalera of Soulfly. He and Cavalera Conspiracy and Cavalera and other things. Go Ahead and Die. Nail Bomb is back. Max plays with Soulfly a bunch of times at St. Vitus, but specifically 2 sold-out shows at the end of February 2020, one of which I was at, and it was wall-to-wall people, and it was also some wacky violence and stuff going on. The crowd was a little unruly, and I was there with a bunch of photographer friends, and we could barely see each other and barely communicate. There's no photo pit there's no photo pit at St. Vitus, so you're just smushed against the stage. But it was a wild show and a great show. And Max really was in his full power. Like when a super villain or a superhero has all their powers in a big power up Super Saiyan moment, Max was that guy that night. He was just really, brought it. So that was the last show I saw before the pandemic, any concert, right? This is February 29th, 2020, and unbelievable. And this photo is by Kim Hansen of Ghost Cult. That's, I think, Sick New World or somewhere else. Then, for the number 2 important show in the history of Ghost Cult at St. Vitus, this is Mizmor. And so this was my return to St. Vitus a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. That's the shame of this closure. Almost exactly a year ago, August 14th, as we record this on August 19th, August 14th, 2023, I literally got into town on a bus from Philadelphia. I ate a glizzy. I jumped on the 6 train up to the Bronx. I dropped my suitcases. I changed my shirt into another shirt, and I headed back to Williamsburg for the first time in years to see Mizmor. Mizmor, Unrequited, and Funeral Leech, who we just interviewed recently. And Mizmor is easily one, along with Blackbraid, one of the pinnacle American black metal bands. And this is just a sampling of the stuff we covered. And obviously this is just a small micro amount of all the big shows that have been here. The countless bands that have played here: hardcore, metal, black metal, death metal, punk, other genres, synthwave, Nordic folk. We covered so many things here. But Mizmor, this show was incredible. I think I bought all the merch from everybody that night. I bought merch from every band, and it was a really great experience, and I felt at home being there. And now it's gone, which kind of sucks. And then the final most important show Ghost Cult has covered at this place, beside the aforementioned culturally significant ones, is An Evening with Baroness. This is another photo from Kim Hansen. This is John Dyer Baisley of Baroness. And Baroness does a lot of acoustic shows, and occasionally they used to do an evening with shows, especially during the pandemic. And this was I think this was the post-pandemic era, An Evening with Baroness, again in a tiny place when they play big theaters and festivals all over and other things. And it also kind of has, John has a lot of punk rock spirit in him from his youth, and so he carries that with him. He loves to support DIY businesses and record stores. He loves to play the small clubs. And so imagine you're getting this humongous, magical musical experience in a tiny club. Our boy Scott Summer covered this for us. And, I can't say enough great things about that coverage and Baroness in general. Stone is such a great record. I'm really a blue and red guy, and yellow and green and purple, which is flawless to me. Of course, yellow and green's a lot of fun and has big hits. Purple is really purple. Orange and gray and Stone, to me, are really flawless records with almost basically no skips. But anyway, those are the big shows. This is running a little long, so I'm going to wrap it up soon. Let us just whip through a few other things. So here are Ghost Cult's favorite interviews ever conducted here. And so I'm just going to zip through. This is a picture of me with our old logo and Monolord, who are here for the Magnetic Eye Day of Doom that I previously mentioned. Let's quickly talk about some of the top interviews we've done here. I mentioned Revocation, Conan, and Todd Youth of Bloodclot and many other bands. Some other fun ones we did beside Monolord are 1349, Malignancy. Shout out to Alex Cohen right now, who's battling cancer. He was the drummer for that Malignancy tour because Mike Heller was busy with something else. I think Fear Factory at the time. Now he's not. Blackwater Holy Light, Sunny, a Blackwater Holy Light who are becoming a big band now. Vile Creature, a great interview for our podcast. Twin Temple, also an interview on their podcast before they were as big as they are now, opening for Ghost and Danzig. Twin Temple's amazing. We mentioned Like the Torch. Joel Grind and I had an interview also. I think Joel was one of the opening bands for that last Soulfly show. Blacktop Mojo and Otherwise were on tour together, and we got a new interview coming with Blacktop Mojo. But Adrian of Otherwise and Matt of Blacktop Mojo, we just ended up, hey, let's just do an interview collaboratively together. We did it on the fly, threw out my questions, and we just broke down and compared their experiences as one band that's been around for a while and a newer up-and-coming band. So that was a lot of fun. We interviewed Cloak, another great American black metal band with some hardcore influence. Childbite, probably one of my most fun interviews, where Sean, the vocalist, and I talked about getting old and what it's like to be an old guy with gray ball hairs and squishing your balls when you roll over at night and other male problems, peeing too frequently, prostate problems, other things, and how cool he is and how cool the Detroit scene is for hardcore. We meant Pathology is another one. That's where Alex Cohen played. Malignancy is our homies. Great death metal band from New York City. Creeping Death, of course, on the way up to their rise right now. We interviewed the whole band for that. That was fun. And of course, our first interview ever with Dallas of Narcotic Wasteland was also at Saint Vitus. But there's so many interviews on our YouTube and our podcast. And I'm really grateful that I had these opportunities and experiences. And then just for a last thing, there's always special events at Saint Vitus Bar. So I just wanted to call out a few of them. And a lot of them, these like very special, unique things you could not see anywhere else. Not just like, oh, we're having a thing here, but like these didn't exist anywhere else. So this is really cool. I appreciate whoever's watching on YouTube. Thanks for being here. Feel free to like and subscribe. This is pretty heavy. When the Lamb of God documentary came out following Randy's imprisonment, this is probably like if I had ranked these, this would be number one. This is the As the Palaces Burn documentary by Don Argot and 914 Films, and was really emotional. People were crying. It was the first time this was seen anywhere, and I felt lucky to be in the room. There was a couple of other documentaries that were premiered at St. Vitus Bar. The Melvins movie Colossus of Destiny, which featured my late friend Melina Delamargio in the end of it. The recent Justin Pearson documentary, Don't Fall in Love with Yourself, Justin, of Retox and The Locust and Dead Cross and 31G Records. There was a listening party for Amon Amarth's John's Viking record, where the Amon Amarth was just hanging out, drinking beer with everybody, and all the Metal Blade folks came in. And shout out to Vince Edwards and everybody else back then. And of course, Brian Slagle once again. Bard Spec was a really cool Norse folk meets electronica project from Bjorn from Enslaved, who I also love. And I believe Steve Austin came out and played guitar for that show, just both of them kind of experimenting. And also one other documentary that happened there was the Sam Black Church documentary, directed by my homie from Boston, Duncan Wilder Johnson. And then just, a lot of other things like beer releases. They always sold the Trooper beer and the Metallica beer. Metallica Enter Sandman beer is not that good. Hopefully they'll come out with a good beer someday. But the Trooper beer was always on sale there. And Dream Theater did have their beer release there. Barstool Preacher. And the beer was And there was a lot of industry folks there that night that were kind of showing off and being conceited, but like the rest of my homies that were there were cool, and the band was decently cool. So I appreciate getting put in for that by the publicist of that event, Kevin Chiamonte. But it was a little weird vibes in the room. It was like the big kids table, and all you guys. I was like, you guys don't come here often, do you, Loudwire? The rest of us are used to being here. And they were like, this place is so creepy and dark. I was like, you don't belong here, folks. But anyway, overall, I'm not trying to gatekeep a non-gatekeepery place. Overall, Saint Vitus was an amazing place. I'm really going to miss it. I really do wish the best for those guys who were the founders and owners. I hope they get to open another place somewhere else soon, whether they call it Saint Vitus or something else. Saint Vitus will continue to book shows as a brand, I believe. And I'm just really grateful for the times I had there. And so, again, if you made it this far, and some of you have, thank you for watching. We will be back on at least one more time later this week with our Rock and Metal News live stream. Subscribe to us on all the things to see it when it goes live and get notified. Follow us on all the things. I really don't care about X anymore, but if you want to follow us on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, those things are all still cool. Facebook's okay too. And of course, visit our website, ghostcultman.com. I'm Keefy. There's no fancy ending here, so I'm going to just end this thing. Thanks for watching. Keep it real. Rip Saint Vitus Bar. Much love to everybody that's feeling it after this thing closed. So that's my story. Peace.